Hi everyone, welcome to the School Improvement Institute webinar on updating your data in your school improvement plan. This webinar is intended for SI2 Update 1 schools and Update 2 schools. My name is Sue Reynolds and I am the president of the American Student Achievement Institute. Okay, so before we begin, I just want to go back 1 month and just look very quickly at the October tasks. So these are the things that you've been working on, and as we've been monitoring your work, we're really seeing good things. Uh, Especially with the Update 1 schools and convening your councils and figuring out how to get together with your students. In our Update 2 schools and updating your councils, you're really kind of on the ball, and that's wonderful. So really good work. Also hearing really good reports from Tina that you're engaging her and using her a lot, which is wonderful. So keep doing that. So a couple things. For the Update 1 schools, remember your task last month was to convene your school improvement council and to create a structure for obtaining input from your student body. So we know you're rolling on that, so that's good. And then for the Update 2 schools, you already had a council in place, so you were just updating the members on your council. So good work. Okay, so then in all schools, last month you updated your steering team members to make sure that all the tasks were assigned and that your steering team members were engaged and active. And then you kicked off interventions with your council so that all of your teachers and your community members and your students knew what role that they were to play in those interventions, and you got those interventions in place and rolling with integrity. So it's not just interventions that are half-heartedly implemented or that are just written on paper, but you're going strong with those interventions. You've got them in place and they're rolling. So that's really good. And then the last thing on the page is we asked you to update your SIP uses page. You'll notice I put that in bold font and put it last because I really wanted this to stick with you, that if you have not done that, it is critically important that you do it before you go on, because remember that customizes your SI2 online system, and so we need to make sure that that's accurate. So one thing with updating that page that came up last month in our webinar, but we just want to emphasize it again, is that DOE has not yet provided you with your AMO data from their 2016 state tests. So when you get to the update page, when you get to that section there that says annual measurable objectives, what we want you to do right now is just to use the most current AMO data that you have. And put that in there. That'll customize your website. As an alternative, if you want to guess, that would also be okay, but we need to get something in there that we think is going to be accurate because it's going to customize this month's activities. Then hopefully we'll get the AMO data from DOE fairly soon, and we'll update it, but 9 times out of 10 your guesses or your data from last year are still going to be the same. So but again, with SI2 we always use just the most recent data that we can get our hands on, and right now we can't get our hands on that AMO data yet. So but as soon as we do, we'll update everything. Okay. So the November tasks, then, what we're doing this month. There is not a council discussion this month. That won't happen again until December. And so what we're doing this month is just having the steering team update the data in your online system. So I'm going to run through that very quickly. This will probably be a fairly short webinar. At least I don't think we'll run over at all. So all we need to do is talk about getting that data updated. So first of all, data that we also do not have publicly is the 2016 state test scores. So we cannot get our hands on the ISTEP data and ECA data because it's not been yet released publicly. We're checking every day, every other day, and as soon as we have that data, we will auto-populate it into your online system. So when you open up that report right now, you'll just get a little message that says the data is not yet publicly available. And again, as soon as it is, then we can get our hands on it and we'll put it into your online system. So when you have your standards mastery data, that you will enter in. So we're just talking about I-STEP scores and ECA scores here. But in terms of the mastery data, that's something that we never can get publicly. That's only released to the schools. So and because of that, you'll have to enter that data yourselves. So, okay, just wanted to let you know when you don't see that 16 data, that's why we don't have it yet. So, okay. So we want to look at the process page for October, and I think the easiest way to do that is just to go to an online system. And the one the one I would like to demonstrate on is the one from Plymouth High School. They've done a really nice job in entering all their stuff, and also have created an optional data table that I thought was very smart. I liked what they did with it, and I just wanted to kind of show you where they went with that. So I'm going to open up the process page, and then I'll scroll down through the October tasks to the November task, which is to update your data. So, and let's just kind of walk through this, and I'll open up some screens and kind of highlight a couple of things. So step one for this month is you're participating in the steering team webinar, which you're doing right now. So Plymouth has checked that off, that's happening. And then the second one is to update the achievement data. So when I open this page, you'll notice that the screen is asking you for data from last school year, 2015-2016, and that makes sense because we don't have data yet from this school year, 16-17, so we're dropping in the data from last year. Then, the other thing that I wanted to point out is that if you are an Update 1 school, so you just started with us last year, you'll see that a lot of these data tables are already complete, and that's because with DOE's timeline last year, we started so late with you that you were entering your data for the first time in the summer. And so we were able to capture the 15-16 data. So you're actually ahead of the game if you're an Update 1 school, because you did this just a couple of months ago when this data was available. If you're an Update 2 school, the last time you updated your data was last fall, and so now we need to update it again. So to update that data, and you'll get to see what it looks like once it's in there, I'm going to just open up the Core 40 progress. And you'll see that when I go in here, I'm going to say what year I want, so 15-16. Then you're going to click Enter Edit, and that will allow you to put in the number of students in the group and then the number that met the benchmark. So just like you've done in the past. But again, if you're an Update 1 school, good news for you, this is in there. So, okay. So you can see Plymouth has one table still to put in, but the rest of them they have completed. So Plymouth and all the other Update 1 schools, when you're satisfied that you've got all of your data in from last year, just hit Submit for Review. And then Update 2 schools, you're going to do the same thing, except you'll be updating all these tables and then hit Submit for Review. Okay, so that's putting in the achievement data. It is possible here to switch the year to 16-17, but I don't think you'll have any data yet from 16-17, so we're not going to worry about that yet. We'll update that a year from now. So we're just putting in the 15-16 data. So, okay. So that's the achievement data. Oh, one other thing. Let me go back to here. On the nope, let me go back. I'm sorry. Here we go. On the standards mastery, when you click on this, it's going to take you to the same page, and you'll find on here a link that says standards mastery. We're still working to get this up for the high schools. in the elementary schools, you know you've been putting that in there for years, but there will be a standards mastery link here if you're in elementary school for ISTEP, and there'll be a standards mastery here for ECA if you're high school. I wanted to show you that we actually divided this into two different submissions. So the first submission would be all the data excluding the standards mastery, and the second step would be to just submit the report again, but this time with the standards mastery data in there. We did that again because DOE has gotten us this standards mastery data to the schools very late some years, and we didn't want you to have to wait to submit all of the achievement data to us while you're waiting for DOE to get you this masteries data. So submit everything except the masteries data using this submit icon, and then when you get the mastery data in there for the standards mastery, then use this icon to ask us to look over that standards mastery data. So okay, so now the optional achievement data, there's a couple of things to do with that. I'm going to open up what Plymouth did. I really like what they did, by the way. So Plymouth started looking at what other data do we want to review in addition to the data that ASA has asked us to review for SI2. And they decided to create a second table using this create a new chart, I like to call it a wizard, but the creating a new chart wizard. And they created a second AP table for AP Potential, and this one looked at AP Psychology and AP Stats. Those are other courses that they wanted to see, you know, how many kids do we have that have potential for doing well in those classes in our school. So they created another data table to give them that information. So anytime there is, you know, data that you think would be good for your school to review on an annual basis, you can just use this optional step to create new data charts for your school to use. Okay, then the other thing that we want you to do on this page, if you would, is to delete any of the tables that you're no longer using. So let's say that, you know, for Plymouth High School this was no longer an issue and they didn't want to monitor this data anymore. We want to clean this up. So just delete that slide or that table. Okay. Okay, so that is the optional. Okay, so that's the achievement data. The first, these three steps 2, 3, and 4 is updating your achievement data. On step 5, we're going to start updating your root cause data. And let me show you how we're doing that. I'm going to click on Enter Edit. And now the date has changed. This time we're asking you to report on what's happening for the most part this school year for 16-17. So we've got 16-17 in this window. And when you open this up for the first time, you're going to notice that there's comments in all these boxes. What we did to save you some time is we took last year's answers and we put them in as this year's answers. So all you need to do is just read through these things and see, has anything changed? If so, then edit it and save, and that will save your comments only on this year 16-17. It will not change it on 15-16. So you'll be able to look back historically to see what your root causes were last year and the year before that if you were a U2 school, an Update 2 school. So if nothing's changed, just leave it exactly the way it is. But if things have changed, then you know, then make the update. So we hope this will save you a lot of time. So okay, I'm going to go back, and that was ASA's root cause self-study. Now let's look at Indiana's turnaround principles self-study. So I'm going to click on this. Remember, this is something we like, the turnaround principles. We think it's something that's important for Indiana schools, especially to look at, because we know our Indiana Department of Education is looking heavily at those. And so what you've done it here, we've tried to make this not very time consuming by just making all of these just yes, no's. So you're just looking through these statements which are from the turnaround principle rubric that DOE publishes. and you just, and we've already checked what you said last year. So we just need to read through and see, has anything changed here? If so, then you can change it, however you need to. So we're just updating this page. And then please notice that we're asking you to use data from 16-17, but in a couple of these statements, we don't know, you won't know yet, and you'll have to go back and think, okay, what was this last year? And in that case, it'll say 15-16. So just kind of monitor what the dates were in that. And then again, you're just updating. So, okay. Don't forget, of course, on all these to submit when you're ready. Okay, then on the next one, wanted to show you here that these two for Plymouth High School, you'll see that the font is gray instead of black. And the reason for that is because Plymouth High School is not a priority school, it's not a focus school, so these are not active. And none of these icons are hot, so you can't do anything. So let's say, though, that you get into this and you say, wait a minute, we are a priority school. Why aren't we, why aren't they asking us to answer those priority school questions? So the reason is because back in that SI2 uses page, you didn't select priority. So this is a place where the SI2 uses page customizes this process part. So if that's the case and you really are a priority school or a focus school, you just go back up here to the SIP uses page and then check off that you're a priority school, and that will make this part hot. We left this on here gray instead of just taking it out because we want you to be thinking, I'm not a priority school, and that makes sense. I'm not a focus school, and that makes sense. Because if you are, we need to do this force field analysis on that criteria. Okay, moving right along, update on Indiana rules and regs. That is a place where you've, again, we're putting in 16-17. And then where's a public copy of your school's curriculum located? So you can see they just put in a website, that's fine, or you can put, in the principal's office or in our school library or wherever you keep your public copy. And then you're just answering the questions. Sometimes we get questions on this, what rules or statutes would you like to waive? In this case, Plymouth said none, but if there are rules and regs that you want to waive that you're allowed to waive because they're part of Indiana code, you would describe that here. Okay. So that's that. The next lines have to do with title schools, and you can see that Plymouth is not a title school, so these are gray again. But again, if you see this and you think, oh my gosh, we are a title school, then go back to the SIP uses page and get that fixed so that these will become hot. Okay, and the last thing to do is to go over the rubric items. So on the achievement data, this is pretty straightforward. Data from the previous year have been added. Masteries data, the standards mastery data has been added. Same thing with the optional data tables, that the data has been added to any charts that you have, and that tables that you're no longer using have been deleted. All questions have been answered on the root cause studies. And then this is one I just wanted to mention real quickly. Remember, we are verifying to the Indiana Department of Education that you have met all the requirements for PL 221. And so these are some things that we need to make sure that we eyeball in the root causes self-study for the Indiana rules and regs. So first of all questions have been answered. And we have to check to make sure that you've told us where the copy of the school's curriculum is located. So if you say in that section, we don't have a copy of our curriculum available to the public, then we'll come back and say, oh, you have to for PL 221 and ask you to adjust that. The titles, a list of the titles of the assessment instruments are published and a brief description of each. You can just put that into your online system. The rules and regs that you want to waive, and then describes the evaluation process that would be used to measure the success of these things. Okay, so those are things that we have to be able to eyeball in order to it's one of the things that we have to eyeball in order to verify to DOE that you've met all PL 221. Also, we take an excerpt of this section in the self-study, and that actually appears in your school improvement plan, so that the public is aware also there of how you've answered these questions. So, okay. So that's it on the rubric. It's pretty simple. Just, basically, have you done, have you updated your data or not? So, okay, and that's it. Looking ahead, we are doing these tasks in November because this is kind of a lighter month because we're not meeting with your council right now. In December, we are going to meet with your council. We're going to be talking about what they are witnessing that would tell us that the interventions are in place and that they're working. And then second semester, we start to write your 17-18 school improvement plan. And you can see that your council will meet with your council, and the data that you're updating right now will be brought in as baseline data as they to help the council update their goals. And then the data that you're updating right now in the root cause section will be brought in to help your council as baseline data to help your council update its root causes. One other question you might have is, why is all this orange instead of black? That's because the system will not allow you to go on to this step until everything meets criteria in the step before, because this is a sequential process. So, okay, I think that's it. So pretty simple, just get in and update the data. So, okay, let me see here. Okay, so yeah, and that's it. So just remember, if you have questions, to please call Tina. For the SI or for the Update 1 schools, you've got a lot of that data in there already because we didn't do data until the summer. And we also know that a lot of the Update 2 schools, you're so used to doing this that maybe even over the summer you updated that data. So I think Tina's kind of been encouraging you to not wait to the last minute, and we know that some of you have gotten a kind of a head start on that, so that's great. So I'll pause here. I think we're pretty straightforward, but what questions do you have about this or anything else? As you're thinking about your questions, one other thing that we'd like to bring to your attention, and we'll be sending out a separate email about this, is you may have heard that Lilly Endowment is going to be putting $30 million into helping schools improve their school counseling programs. The next semester, the spring semester of this year, will be a planning year, and every school in the state will be able to apply for a planning grant, which is really cool. So it's not a competitive thing. Every school in the state will be able to get that grant. And then the implementation grant, after you've developed your proposal this coming semester, the implementation grant can be spent over the next 3 years, beginning next October, so a year from now. And that is a competitive grant. So schools that are awarded that will be able to use that money to implement the interventions, the strategies that are in their planning grant proposal, or their implementation grant proposal. So we will be helping, we will be providing services for schools second semester to help them create their implementation grants. So during the planning phase, second semester of this year, we'll be providing a workshop series, a webinar series, to help a steering team create their implementation grant, looking at data. As many of you know, when we got started, our first start was not in whole school reform, it was just in school counseling reform. And our work is pretty much, we're one of the leaders nationally in helping to create sound school counseling programs that are data-driven. So we'll be getting information out to you about that either later this week or maybe first thing next week. A lot of it's still kind of fluid, and we want to do a little bit more research before we provide that. But it looks like we'll be helping schools create their implementation grants second semester this year. That will be one service that we'll provide. And then in the implementation phase, right now we're thinking about helping schools figure out how to engage people in addition to the school counselors to deliver guidance activities. So in that initiative, we'll be teaching schools like how to set up a teacher advisor program, which we have a lot of experience with, where teachers and counselors work together to advise students, and teachers meet with small groups of kids that they work with maybe for the whole time that those kids are in the school. So those teachers who have 8 to 15 students really get to know those kids. All coordinated, of course, by the school counselors. It will align with the school counseling standards. So it's really, it's really a help for the counselors to have more worker bees, knowing the kids and being able to provide academic and career guidance for the kids. So that will be in the implementation phase. That will be one of the services that we provide to help schools create and deliver a teacher advisor program. And then the other one is a community-based guidance program where it's kind of the same thing as a teacher advisor program, except that the services will be happening via the Kiwanis Club, the Community Foundation, the Economic Development Council, the Mayor's Office, the mental health agencies in the community. But it will all be aligned with the school counseling program. So that's kind of where we're headed with those. We would love to be able to provide services for your schools. The funding coming to schools, even for the process grant, the process part where you're developing your implementation proposal, the funding is actually quite large. So yeah, so I think it's very exciting. If you've not heard about that yet, if you Google counseling initiative and Lilly Endowment, you'll get to the page where you can pull that up and read about it. But we will be sending something out to you that kind of summarizes the whole thing very succinctly, and then letting you know what deliverables we could provide for you if you're interested in that. Yeah, and as you know, school counseling is kind of where we started. I was the National High School Counselor of the Year at one time, and in our counseling initiative, there's been a lot of independent research on it, and it's been shown that schools that work with us to improve their school counseling initiative end up having higher math achievement and language arts achievement on their state tests. So we're just very excited about it. But we'll send you more information, but I just wanted to mention that to you so that if you have heard about that, to just know that something's going to be coming from us as well. So, okay, what questions do we have? Tina, any questions that got typed in or anything you'd like to add?
There aren't currently any questions right now, but if I may very quickly, I know many of you have been on fall break and it's been more extended this year since you started classes earlier. So that may push you a little bit on having your first council meeting as well as your student breakouts. If you could just drop me an email and let me know what your timeline is on those, then I'll know accordingly how to kind of plan on when to look for your summaries. That would be a big help. And then also, just as soon as everyone can, go ahead and get that first section finished with getting your SIP uses in. Sue talked about that earlier. If you have any questions, give me a call or drop me an email. And then also, I'm guessing that probably 99.9% of you have your steering team people all up, ready, point positions assigned, contacts, and more than likely most of your council already set up. So if you can just go ahead and submit those items, that would be great. I know they're not due until the 31st, but I know you're going to want to hit the ground running now. So the quicker you can get those sent to me, the quicker I can get the turnaround on them, and you can just be on your way.
That sounds good. Thank you, Tina. Yeah, and especially the SI2 or the SIP update. I'm sorry, the SIP uses tab. we get kind of panicked when that hasn't been submitted because we're afraid that you're maybe not, you know, we know your system maybe hasn't been appropriately customized. So yeah, so be looking at that. Okay, I think that's it. There's one other thing I wanted to mention, but I don't remember what it was. Okay, very good. So call Tina if you, oh, I know what it was. We will let you know as soon as we have dumped that ISEP data and ECA data into your system. We'll send you an email immediately and let you know that it's in there. And as soon as we hear that you've got AMO data, of course, again, you know, that's data that we can't see. And same thing with the masteries data, master standards mastery data. As soon as we hear from a principal or hear from a school that schools have that, we'll send that out to you as well, so you'll know that you can go into DOE's website and look for that. So, okay, any questions before we close? Okay, keep implementing those interventions. That's wonderful. And again, next month we'll talk about evaluating those interventions. So, and call Tina if you need help. Okay, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks.